Hello everybody, Darren here, and welcome to FROSTPUNK 2. This is going to be a short mini-series showcasing the game's current beta, which started April 15th. You can get access yourself to the beta by pre-ordering the game on Steam, and thank you to 11-Bit Studios for sending me the game early. That way I could get my hands on it and have videos ready in time for the beta period. This isn't a sponsored video, but I'm just going to warn you that I'm in love with this game. I'm a huge fan of the first one, and after this beta, I'm just an even bigger fan now. I want movies, I want an expanded FROSTPUNK universe. It's just so cool. Anyways, in the FROSTPUNK 2 beta, we can play the Utopia Builder preview, which is sort of a sandbox selection of maps and adjustable difficulties and various customization options for the political parties there within. But for the preview, we've been limited to just one of the maps and one starting selection of communities and 300 in-game weeks, which is our time limit. Our goal is to colonize the Frostland in that time. As the last of the coal deposits are being harvested, humanity is forced once again to look for new energy sources. Somebody get America on the line. Before we start, I also want to mention that this episode can be a tiny bit slow as I'm explaining how a lot of things work. The game is way different than the previous one, but by the end and into the next video, things ramp up in intensity very quickly as, well, you guessed it, it gets colder and people get more desperate and they look to us to guide them. So let's begin. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, in typical FROSTPUNK fashion, we've been hit with a major problem right off the rip, and that is that coal is running out. We've grown numerous over the years and waited too long to strike out. Our coal stockpiles are nearly depleted. We have to colonize the Frostland, but first, we located some coal deposits in rough terrain around the city. We must send frost-breaking crews to access them. We need more coal. So, there is so much to get to in explaining how this game works, and so much has changed from the previous game. It's a radical departure. No longer are we a radial city builder around a generator. Now, we are a hex-based game building on a much larger scale with political machinations thrown in there for good measure. So to get it started, instead of sitting back and explaining everything slowly and painstakingly that's different, we're just going to get building, and then we can hopefully kind of explain things as they're happening in the background. So the first thing is frost breaking. We need to get this coal deposit right here. There is another one in the background over there. There's some materials on the mountainside. There's some materials out there. There's also connections to the Frostland that we can work on a little bit later. But for now, we have our playable area inside of these yellow hexes, and using frost-breaking crews, by spending a little bit of money, which in this game is called heat stamps, and by utilizing some of our workforce that we'll get back once the job is done, we can expand out 8 tiles onto these various deposits so that then we can actually build districts on them. So there we go. So that's going to be the first stage of our frost breaking. So you'll just see the crews appearing, clearing out some of the ice, and creating a sort of road network that leads out here in the future. So while we're working on that, I thought we should go over some of the elements in the UI. Up in the top left, we have the current week, the day, the timer, and everything that's going by. On the top right, we have the timeline of weather events. So on week 70, which is quite far out, to be fair, we're on week 3 right now. So week 70, we'll have a cold snap hit. Temperature's going to drop. If you're familiar with FROSTPUNK, you know it all too well. We have our population here of 8,000. We're currently at negative 20 degrees. Alright, so we've now expanded out to this area so we can build in this area, and we want to actually make a district. So we have a shallow coal deposit here of 450,000. We want to get an extraction district built on it. It's going to require 120 heat stamps and 600 workforce. And it'll actually maintain that workforce, obviously. And then we'll get some coal out. So we'll just click onto this, and now we have 5 little hexes that we can fill with the district space. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And boom. That is going to be our extraction district as it gets built. We can see now the sort of walkways that lead back to the city, and we'll see people migrating out to and from it. Now, all of this is going to make a lot more sense as we get further into the game. Why is it done like this? Why are we dealing with districts? You know, it's awesome. I think so anyway. It's to do with the political parties, and it's super cool. So, to go through the UI a little bit more, we have our heat stamps, which is our regular money. We're making 11 per week right now. We have our cores, which we'll get to later. Population, rather workforce. This is the people that the boots on the ground we can put down to actually get to work, whereas we have our population over here. So this is always a percentage of that population. We then have heat and our fuel, right? So coal right here and the stockpile that we're building, and then we have the actual heat. and how much is being demanded by the district and how much is being put out from the generator. They're always or tries to be 1-to-1 so you don't waste any of your fuel. So at the moment, our generator is burning 70 because we need 70. And that is the same for the amount of coal, right? 70 of our coal has been taken by the generator. We'll kind of touch on that a little bit later. Last thing then, shelter, food, materials, and goods. Materials is what we build with. It's your steel and your wood. They're considered the same thing in this game. We then have food, and then we have goods. Goods is just like amenities that people want, the objects necessary for everyday life. Failure to meet the demand for them causes crime to rise and reduces heat stamps. And very last thing is, if you have a look at this tooltip, it's a good example of how these tooltips work in this game. I'll just pause it for a second here. We're providing 15. The 15 is coming from the central district. We're lacking 26 because the demand is 41 from the foragers and the machinists. So that's how that overall works. If we were providing more than we needed, we would then stockpile the surplus in that big stockpile bar there that says we can go up to 30,000. So that's basically how it works. All right, let's let time play again. Oh, and also our missions are up in the top left, our objectives for this kind of demo. So shelter from the cold, good. We secured a new source of coal for the generator, but now we need shelter. Without it, people will still freeze to death regardless of how hot the generator runs. The closer to the generator or other shelter, the better. We cannot afford to lose more heat than we have to. So unlike traditional Frostpunk, we don't actually need to be right next to the generator, we just need to be next to other homes. So we're going to build 2 housing districts because that's what we need, and the optional thing is to use the warmth from the central district or another housing district. So basically, we could build a housing district all the way out here, but you wouldn't get any heat from that. But if we build on these tiles, we save a little bit of heat, right? We get 5 heat back. So if we look at the tooltip for the district itself, the demand of a housing district by standard is 40 heat. Popping it down somewhere here will save us 5 per... Not per tile. Is it per tile? No, I think it's just on that one tile. Yeah, thinking about it. Otherwise, you could eliminate heat almost altogether. Right, so anyway, let's get started. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Let's do that. So that'll be our first housing district, and we need a second one as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So start that one there. Making nice use of the terrain all the way up to the cliff edge. Right, so 2 housing districts have been built. That's going to be, costing us heat stamps. It's going to put more strain on our heat, right? So we have 70 right now. We know that we've just put down 2 buildings that would have cost 80, but we're saving 5 on each. So that's going to be just 70. So we should go up to 140 burn rate. Currently, we're only bringing in 120 coal. So straight away, our burn rate's going to be higher than our coal production rate, which means we'll be eating out of the stockpile for a little while. Oh man, hopefully that all makes sense anyway. So these little golden pips are our events. Let's check it out. Looming cold. As the cold problem in our city continues to worsen, we must take action to protect our citizens. In these harsh conditions, people need a roof over their heads and enough heat to warm their homes. Is the generator powerful enough to heat the city? Or do we need to extract more fuel? If our current methods aren't enough, we should consider alternatives. Cold has risen to an alarming level. The next thing to touch on for the UI is these little pips up here. This is how the people feel about the cold, about their hunger, their squalor, the disease in the city, the crime in the city. So you can see these things going up and down, and the longer the trails get off of each little pip, the worse it is. So you want to kind of keep them to themselves and contained. Alright, scraping the barrel. So we've just completed the objective of building those 2 districts. So with the heat from the generator and the shelter for everyone, we're safe from the cold for now, but as the city grows, it'll not be enough. The machinists and the foragers have different opinions on how to improve the city further. We need to develop these ideas for the future. Expand a housing district to provide more space for advanced buildings and build a research institute. I see. So select a housing district and expand it. So we'll do this one here just because it's the closest one to me. The total demand for heat is 35, so just, again, generator proximity is shaving off just 5 for us. So only 1 tile of the district needed to be connected like that, which is good to know. Anyway, so now we can expand it for 50 heat stamps. And we'll just go 1, 2, 3. And that's going to continue building now. So a standard housing district doesn't have the ability to add any buildings in. But, for instance, our extraction district does. We have an empty building slot here. So a building on top of a district basically is like an augment to that district. We can add, better coal mines, extra storage, less workers, automatons, these kind of things, I think, that we can basically just augment the district itself, and by expanding districts, you can have extra building slots. Let's see what's up with them. Security for the future. Stockpiling. Steward, we're extracting more coal than we currently need to provide adequate heat to the city. As such, we've begun stockpiling the surplus. At the moment, we have ample storage space left. However, this space will eventually be filled, and any additional coal will be left out in the elements, rendering it worthless. If we do not wish to lose the surplus, we should build more depots. There are different types of depots for various resources. You can construct them in any districts that have empty building space. So yeah, you can add buildings that are augments to a district, or you could just add more storage to any district for any type. So I could add a coal storage to a food district, I believe, if I wanted to, if I was really hurting for space. Alright, so right now, I think that might have been a little outdated, because, if we just pause it really quickly, our current coal, the requirements are 140 from the generator. The output is 120 from our district, and 20 is being taken from the stockpile. So the stockpile currently says it's spending, and it's going to only last for 52 weeks. So they were sort of pushing me in the direction of telling me, hey, you should probably build a stockpile, a bigger one. But that's not true anymore. These 2 extra districts now outweigh the coal that we were producing, now that we're losing coal overall. So we want to get on top of that, obviously, in the future. Right, so build a research institute. So our district has now been extended and enhanced, so now we can build buildings into it, right? So this one has an empty building slot, whereas this one does not. So let's click this one, and then we'll press N for our building tab down here, and we have on the housing category a research institute. So 100 heat stamps, 200 workforce, and it just gets automatically placed. It kind of decides for you on what hex it'll get placed into, because it's just one building slot, it's not per hex kind of thing. Alright, so that's going to be placed in. Now, something I didn't actually really look at there was it actually requires 20 additional heat. So that additional heat is going to increase this to 160, increasing our coal consumption to 160, meaning we're drawing from the stockpile even faster. But we're doing this in order to research and get coal mines up and running. And then we can augment the extraction district to put in a, what's it called, put in an additional building that's getting extra coal out of it. But while that's all happening now, we're going to expand out this direction. There's frozen materials here, so we're going to do some frost breaking. Just like that. I guess we could actually get a little bit there as well. Cool. Alright, so the frost breaking teams are going to clear the terrain out there for us in the future, because right now we're not really making enough materials to even sustain the things that we have going. Because you pay material upkeep for your different districts. So our extraction district is costing us 50 materials. We're not making any materials. We were given a decent stockpile, so we have to actually set up a district for that too. Alright, so our research institute is done. Different ideas, communities. A small crowd gathers outside the new research institute arguing how to exploit the last coal veins. The machinists want us to lean on machine-powered mining, but foragers would have us pursue a more frugal solution. They would never display such discord in the captain's heyday. You have to choose who to entrust with developing their idea. Show me our options. Alright, we have the idea tree. We have new ideas to move forward. Now remember, this isn't necessarily a technology tree, it's an idea tree. People from different communities propose different ideas within technological categories about how to kind of manipulate them. So that's basically what it's telling us here. Right, so we have the coal mines idea and the various ideas there within. The dust coal mine or the grinding coal mine. Now I think it's actually possible to get both, but we have to kind of choose one for now until we pay money later to get the other one and potentially piss off the other crowd. It's this whole thing. We'll get to it. Right, so we have the foragers, have the dust coal mine. That's 400 workforce requirement, 150 coal output. Disease is slightly increased, and 20 materials are needed. Whereas, if we go with the machinists, they have 100 less workforce requirement. They provide 30 extra coal, but instead of disease increasing slightly, squalor is just increased, so a bit more of a moderate amount. And then materials, instead of 20, it's 60. So they require more materials, and they kind of end up causing a bit more squalor. But I'm gonna go with the machinists, as they're underrepresented in the city by 2%. So paying a bit more favor to them can slightly encourage more people to go over to their side, but not necessarily. It can depend on other things too. So we're going to develop that idea for 50 heat stamps, and that's going to just cook in the background. It's going to take 15 weeks in total to kind of happen, but days are going by pretty quickly, and we're still doing other things as well. So you can see these pips at the moment. There's no cold. No one's cold. It's absent, although apparently it's getting a little bit worse because it says diminishing. Hunger is absent, right? No one's hungry. It's stable, so that's good. Squalor is stable, totally good. Disease is diminishing slightly, so maybe a few people are getting a bit sick out there. And then crime is minor at the moment, so it's increased by goods scarcity. Yeah? So because we're not providing enough goods, there's a bit more crime. People are getting a bit more desperate out there. Whew, that was a lot to go through and explain. Right, so research coal mines. We can maybe speed up time a little bit, or just, no, we could just continue building. I don't want to rush ahead of myself here. So we want to maybe get extraction for materials going, and then there's food deposit here too. So food, we're just eating through our stockpile right now, but our stockpile of materials is lower, so we'll focus materials first. So 600 workforce, we have 3,378. 22 are absent because they're sick. So you can see how that can start to slowly chip away at your workforce, especially when it gets into the hundreds. But we'll go with an extraction building maybe here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Alright, so in a super long district line, but we can extend this to kind of get more, or build a second one in the future too. You can see some people making their way out there now. Now, just like the old game, you can also still click your generator and kick it into overdrive. I don't really know how to use this yet, because clicking it doesn't actually increase heat or burn rate, but it seems to give us food production boosts. So I'm not too sure about it, still learning. It does say increases the generator's output by 40%, but it strains it. Can be turned on safely for 30 weeks. We'll just turn it off, obviously, right now. I'm not really sure why it's not burning more. It might just be the case that it's supply and demand. They won't burn more unless it's absolutely needed. Like you can't meet your heat demand or something. So I think that's the case, but yeah, we need to get a bit further in to learn more. Alright, let's just speed it up a little bit while they're building out this district. "22 sick people have recovered and returned to work in the city." That's what we'd like to hear. Alright, so this district is now done. So what it's doing is there's 270,000 wood here, or materials. The demand is 50 materials even just to run the place, and we get 150 out. So it's sort of like a surplus of 100 is what we basically get. So at the moment, our surplus is 50 overall because of the other demands that we have. So we're storing a little bit extra in the stockpile, so that's good. Alright, so for research, we still have 6 weeks to go. It's tempting to push all the way out to that coal deposit, but maybe we'll just double down on building the building into this one first. It's probably smarter. We should probably set up the food district next, because there's fertile ground right here, right? So let's begin. Food district, so it's going to require 600 workforce again, 100 heat stamps, so we're given a nice healthy amount of heat stamps to begin the game, thankfully. So we get 10 extra heat. So how much heat does this demand? It demands 40, but we get 10 if we can at least border some of the housing districts. Alright, there we go. Food district is going to get up and running. Alright, the food district is almost up and running. Feeling good. Not really any problems right now other than just a little bit of crime. Not too bad. So what we need for that, to make more goods, is we need an industrial district. So we could set that up next. It doesn't actually have any heat demand, interestingly. So you could build that a bit further out. It doesn't have to connect to your city, right? In theory. So maybe we should go with this next. Right, so let's try to pop it somewhere out nearby the coal out that way. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. That could look kind of cool. So that's going to basically make us... They're going to demand 50 materials but put out 20 goods. Our deficit is currently 26, so we'll need a building within there. Probably have to expand that district as well in the future. But at least we'll negate some of the problems that this is causing us. The less unfulfilled you have, obviously the better, right? Food district is done. Is it up and running? Yeah, it's working. Alright, research is finished on the grinding coal mine. So construct the newly researched building in an extraction district. Okay, right, so our extraction district here, we'll go to the extraction tab. Grinding coal mine. Demands 60 materials. Squalor is increased. 180 coal is what we get out of it, though. So we did see that, obviously, when we chose this. We'll pop it in there. Alright, so that's building now. The industrial district is building. And the question is that going to be enough materials? Probably not. Currently, we are totally balanced. We're consuming as much as we're making. And now we're about to be consuming even more, so we'll probably need another district here doing the same thing. Or we could just try to expand it. Extend the district to increase its output and provide one more building slot. So there's an empty building slot there right now, but there's nothing we could put in there to get more out of it. Instead, we could just end up building 2 districts, but that is then... yeah, it's kind of interesting. 150 is what we get out. Let me just test this. So this is... yeah, it says 150 or just... basically, I'm just wondering, if we're only covering 2 little deposits, does that matter? And if we expanded this over these deposits, do we get more? Let's find out, I guess. 1... oh, actually, you have to do it where they connect. So we'll expand here. 1, 2, 3. A place to settle differences. With the new mine, we've enough coal out... sorry. With the new mine, we've enough coal output to last us a while, yet differences between communities remain. Even under previous leader... With the new mine, we've enough coal output to last us a while, yet differences between communities remain. Even under the previous leader, plans have existed to establish a council to settle such differences. More pressing problems always delayed them. The time has come, Stuart. The people want a say in how their city is run. We need a council. We'll do that in just a moment. So I've just expanded this. I'll be very curious if we get more output. I have a feeling we're not going to get more output. Instead, we're just going to cover more of the resource, which is maybe a bit of a shame, but we'll see. Alright, so build the council hall in the central district. So the central district will be here. Go to Central Council Hall. 200 workforce, 80 heat stamps, 20 heat demand. So we're always piling on more heat demand all the time. Alright, so we're building those council chambers. They're almost done. We're actually in a good spot for coal right now. We're outputting 300 but consuming 200. We're probably going to be consuming just a bit more when this finishes. So let's check that out. Actually, it didn't change. That's unusual. I'm not really sure why that didn't change. Or maybe it already calculated it as we were building the district itself, because it said it was going to require 20 more heat. Anyway, let's see what the event is. The first council session. People cheer as the gates of the council open. It feels like a piece of the world lost to the frost has been regained. The people are hopeful to have their voices heard. While the machinists and foragers clash about survival strategy, neither has a firm stance on economic or social issues. However, many in their ranks do, though they keep to the shadows for now. To pass any law in the council, you'll need the majority of the delegates to support it. Open the session. How fucking cool is this? It's awesome. Alright. People of the city sent 100 delegates to represent them. Your role as steward is to propose laws that will be put to a vote. However, communities have different outlook on many things. You may have to negotiate or pressure them to get enough support. Right, so we have survival, economy, and society. And then we have basically a... sorry for the flashbang here on your screen of just pure white. But we have all these 3 different tabs, and then kind of different laws that can be passed within those tabs, and the different settings, right? They can be reversed and changed over time if you're not happy with it. Unlike the previous game, you're not locked in forever. Instead, you just need votes to kind of refute the law and then pass it a different direction if you ever wanted to. Now, before we do that, enact a new law through a successful vote in the council. Alright, so let's figure it out. Sorry, that's the wrong thing. That's the research tree. So, survival. Food additives, goods, common rules. Yeah, maybe for goods. Mass-produced goods. In order to overcome scarcity, we'll organize our production lines to increase goods production. That was something we have a problem with, right? We're not making enough goods right now. So it's supported by the machinists. And it'll be a small step towards progress. Now, if we went with durable goods, it'd be a small steps towards adaptation, and it would support the foragers. Goods demand per capita is marginally decreased. So people don't need as many goods or produce more goods. I'm going to lean towards the machinists. That's just where my heart lies. So we'll propose this. Alright, so we've put a law down on the council chambers, and we can see that 37 people are for it, and 26 people are against it. And you can actually see how many of them are in different groups. It's not just each group is pitted against each other, and we'll have more groups as time goes on. Right now, we just have the machinists and the foragers. So if we click them, we can learn a bit more about them. We've got 49% of the city represented on the machinist side, and 51 for the foragers. Right, so the machinists, these are people descendants of groups that built the initial cities and maintained their machinery. They face the Great Frost huddled around the generator and believe this technological marvel is why they are alive at all today. This belief shapes them. When there is a problem, they would seek a way to solve it through automation, by devising machines to do the work or exploit available resources to ensure good safety margins. To them, technological progress is the only way to ensure survival, maybe even prosperity. Whereas then we have the foragers. As the frost covered the earth, these people and their ancestors were caught beyond the safety of the generator cities. Forced to adapt to the harsh conditions of the frostland, they learned to survive against all odds. At times, foragers decided to settle in the cities once again. However, the ordeal of surviving the frost has developed a lasting mark. They believe adaptation is key, and growing reliant on technological gimmicks invites disaster. Machines tend to break down as soon as conditions deteriorate. Human spirit is a lot more enduring. So we've got polar opposites here, right? One group want to rely on building machines to sort out their problems. The other group are kind of fearful that those machines will fail. You should just rely on your hunter-gatherer survival skills, right? They lived outside of the cities for a long time. So we can vote, just allow them to vote right now and just see where it lands, because it could go either way. We don't know what's going to happen with the people who are hesitant. So it's just a kind of a guessing game. You could maybe say that maybe because more are leaning for, that we've got good chances, but we just still don't know. Or we could negotiate, or we could pressure the delegates, right? So based on the trust that we have in the city, currently we are tolerated, right? So we don't have that much trust. We're at about maybe 40%, if you want to think of it that way. But because of that, we could maybe spend some of that trust to force them to kind of lean one way or the other. Or we could negotiate for it. So if we go to the negotiation table, we could say, I'm going to negotiate with the foragers, right? They're the ones that are leaning against it, and maybe I want to get them on my side. So we'll say, we'll vote for, and in order to convince them, we can say, you know what? You guys can actually just have the next law for yourself. We'll grant them their own agenda, and it says the foragers will choose the next law to be voted on the council. So I don't have it'll just be up to them. So who knows what they could pass. Or we can make them a promise. So we could, in the extraction district that we have, demolish the grinding coal mine. Because if you remember, they were sort of against that in the idea tree. They had a different idea of how it should be done. And we went with the machinists. So they're saying, tear it down, because we don't like that. Or we could go with a different promise for them to, for us to support a policy a little bit later down the line, an expedition support. So we could try that maybe. Exploration time is decreased. That sounds good to me. I don't actually know what the inverse of that is, but sure, we'll promise them this, and this will guarantee that this law goes ahead. And we'll hit accept. Alright, so now there are 75 people supporting it. You only need 51 of the vote in order to do it. So we'll let the voting occur. How awesome is this, by the way? And by the way, we're going to have like 4 or 5 or even more groups in the future. Things get really nasty because you cannot please most people. Alright, 80 of them voted for it. Into the future. Right, the new law has been agreed on. Good. There are challenges ahead. Improving coal extraction is a success, but the vein will only last so long. We need to explore the Frostland for a permanent source of fuel. That's the first step in our colonization effort. If we don't take it, the city will have no future at all. This concludes the tutorial part of the preview. Alright, so we're sort of left to our own devices now. So if we ever get confused or something, I can always open this back up and go through one of the many things that's appeared here, and there's still more to come in terms of how all these different things work. So the generator, the council, negotiations, it's all there, at least to be learned, so that's really handy as well. I love their tutorial system. It was great in the first game too. Let's just pause time really quickly now. So over on the left side of the screen, that's playing time. We have colonized the Frostland. So, build a logistics district in place of one of the old way stations of the city's outskirts. So, if we want to connect to the Frostland at all, we need to basically excavate all the way out to here and, like, build something up with the old way station. So, we'll do maybe this one, and then we'll do that one, and there's one over in this corner as well, I think. Well, maybe we could go with this one first, actually, seeing as it's a bit closer. Yeah, I guess we'll go with the closest one first. Makes sense. All right, so anyway, we'll do that. So find a permanent source of fuel outside the city. So right now, if we zoom out, we can't really see anything on the Frostland. It's all just enshrouded. But once we send out these expedition crews, we'll learn a little bit more. So overall, our goals are to establish a food colony, fuel colony, materials colony, and explore most Frostland territories. Now, it's week 41, and the demo, I believe, ends at week 300. So I don't even know if we can do all of that. And then we also have our promise to the foragers past the expedition support. So let me see if I can find that. That's a law, isn't it? Expedition support. So we have to wait for 10 weeks before we can access the law screen again. That's one of... Oh, actually, we can click it down here. That's good. I was going to say, one of my... That's so funny. I was just about to be like, oh, one of the things I don't like about the game is you can't look at the laws while the thing is in recess, but it is there. It's just a very, very, very small button. This little tooltip will guide us over to what we promised. So it actually says promised to the machinists. That's not true. We promised it to the foragers, so hopefully that's just a little text bug or something, because it does say supported by foragers. Anyway, so this will be a small step towards adaptation and expedition support. The exploration time is decreased. So we can't get it right now. We'll hope to pass that in 10 weeks. The thing is, though, it is just a law. We can't guarantee that it's going to be passed, but we've promised it. We've promised them that, don't worry, this will be passed. So we'll see how that goes. All right, we'll let time play, and we're left to our own devices now. So anything that's decreasing, we need to kind of sort that out. Otherwise, we're going to be bleeding through our stockpile and empty it out and then run into a bunch of problems. So you can see underneath it's very small text, but it says that we're spending food, we're spending materials, and we're stockpiling coal. So coal is okay for a little while, but food could do with being better. Our demand is 160, and we're producing 80 from our districts. But we're also pulling 80 from a stockpile right now. So basically we need another food district, or we need a building that's going to boost it. So we could open up the research tree, which is awesome, by the way, the kind of cracked black ice. We have the economy side of things, the society side of things, and the survival side of things. We have our goods factories, sawmills, advanced coal mines. I'm looking to get hothouses, because that'll help with food, right? So we have the foragers, and we have the machinists. A bio-waste drum hothouse, so 80 food output with 20 heat demand. Or we could go with 60 food output, 40 heat demand. Squalor is slightly increased. Disease is slightly increased. 300 workforce requirement. This is 400. I'm going to go with the foragers on this one. We'll develop the idea for 50. This is going to increase disease only ever so slightly. This would have increased squalor. I just want to check something really quickly. Which one is the worst one right now? It's absent for everything, although the squalor is currently increased just a little bit by the coal mine. So increasing it a little bit for disease, hopefully that's okay. We're spreading the negatives across everything rather than going too heavily into one. So yeah, let's go hothouses, foragers, 400 extra workers, develop the idea for 50, okay? So we'll wait for that to get done, and then we can boost our food with an extra building on it. Now, there is also food up here. Fertile ground. So we could just have another district. But we also are getting a little light on workforce. So there's only so many districts we can set up. How's the goods production right now? We're actually unfulfilled by just one, unfortunately. So we're getting a little bit extra out of the building like we wanted to because of the law we passed. But unfortunately, it's still just slightly not enough. So 20 from the industrial district and 5 from mass-produced goods, the law. Oh, alright, so the other things then, down in the bottom left, we have progress and adaptation. We then have merit and equality, and tradition and reason. So you can build up different bars for all of these, and that creates new political ideological groups that support one of these kind of ideologies, basically, and then we'll have to deal with them in the council chambers. We also have tension between the groups and in the city itself if we are kind of suffering in different categories. But for now, everything is looking good, although weather is about to drop in about 20 weeks, so we're already in week 46. That'll show you how fast things are kind of going by here. Alright, what we should do is at least get some frost breaking going. So we want to open up our logistics so we can get exploring. So we could probably go straight out there. We could also get these two tiles, I suppose, at the same time. Alright, we're just a little bit short, unfortunately, so we'll have to do frost breaking twice. But we can do it twice at the same time, actually. We have the workforce for it. So just unlock that one. Oh, actually, no, they have to be next to each other, don't they? Alright, so we actually have to wait for this to get done before we can build onto it. So I'll have to just wait a little bit longer. That's alright. I don't mind frost breaking both sides of it. I was going to do that anyway. We have an event. What's the deal? Sue Miller, 12, a street urchin looking for trouble. I'm going to do my classic English accent here. Cindy's pa went and got her a governess. Okay, hang on. Cindy's pa went and got her a governess. Like she's going to be a duchess or something. Not on our watch. We roughed up the little bitch alright. Ferguson's boys will learn this too. If they try and wife us again tonight, we'll pull razors and say we'll cut out their eyes. It'll be... Jesus! Alright. It'll be good fun. But what we want is a proper rumble. Short blades only. Come on, who wants to play? The lack of a law regulating childhood is causing tension to rise throughout the city. No shit. Little kids pulling razors on people. Alright. So I guess if we want to maybe sort out the laws for the kids there, but we've already promised a different law, so we can't get to that just yet. We'll handle the kids after that one. This is why this game is amazing, by the way. Alright, just thinking about what we need to build next. I'm just looking at our workforce, our money. We need money for the frost breaking. We're doing it out here, obviously. So we can just speed up time a little bit. So that's done now. We have to just do a little bit more if we want to get to the actual area. Yeah, I think I messed up how I did that, actually, didn't I? So... yeah, I did. Well, oh well. We could just clear this area around here, I guess, for a bigger district. Alright, cool. So we're frost breaking that little area then. That's an old way station. Ruins of an old way station battered down during the whiteout years. The whiteout is basically the storm that you'd be familiar with from the previous game, and she hits hard in this game too. Now, I only actually made it to 100 weeks. I died during the storm. So we'll see how we get on. Alright, let's speed up time. I like when you speed up time, you get a pulse. It goes through the city. It looks cool.
An automaton has broken down and is blocking traffic. Technicians are on their way.
That's so cool. An automaton has broken down. Man, I'd love to do like voice lines and stuff. I'm not nearly a good enough voice actor to do any of that kind of stuff, but it'd just be fun, wouldn't it? Just to be doing some of those funny voice lines and things. I said the same about Manor Lords recently. Alright, is that done, by the way? Oh, it is. Sorry, yeah, my bad. Right, so let's get building a new district. We need a logistics district, 600 workforce, 150 heat stamps. We have that. And will give us 10 Frostland teams that can go out and explore. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Alright, bit of a curvy road that's going to take you up there. Allow us to get through the crevices and the cracks and send our boys and girls out. We're down to 700 workforce right now. Population is increasing. It says growth. The better the overall situation in the city, the more people are healthy, the more kids grow up and are able to enjoy, and are joining the active population. And currently, we're doing great. No one's sick, actually. This is a stark difference than my first little run, where it was just problems right off the rip. Because I was letting time play in the background while reading tooltips and stuff, and it was a bit of a disaster. Right, we've got new laws ready to go. The economy tab is what we promised. Just out of curiosity, how long do we have on that? 26 weeks, and it's 10 weeks per law. So we could get the children sorted first, if we wanted to, but seeing as we're about to send out an expedition anyway, let's see if we can just sort them out now. Economy. Right, community service. Voluntary and unfocused communal efforts does not yield any significant gain for the city. There's no rules on this right now. These are the different rules that we have. So we've promised this one. I haven't even looked at the other ones, which is probably part of the problem, to be honest. That's so cool. The artwork changes for each law as well, actually, a little bit. Right, so we know that exploration time is going to be decreased. That'll help the foragers. They'll like us more. It's actually largely supported already, so we wouldn't really have to even do anything or promise anything for that. City development effort. Materials output per capita is increased. Heat stamps per capita is increased, or heat demand is slightly decreased. Heat pipe watch. So we're going to go with expedition support. Yeah, so you can only have one of these active at a time. So we'll go with this one. Expedition support. Propose. 51 people are already for it. That's what you need in order for a vote to pass, so we'll just guarantee it, basically. 51 for. And we got a few extra in there. 59 in total.
The measure passes.
Alright, promise to the foragers has been kept. The foragers are delighted you kept your word. They now look upon your rule more positively and consider you a leader with integrity. Been watching some South Park recently. Anyway, because you kept your promise, we now have increased relationship and trust has risen just slightly. So this is the relationship bar down here. This is the trust bar. Well, I guess it's everything. I think if your relations, the relations bar are the little semicircles here. So it says neutral right now. And they're also neutral. And it changes color when it becomes positive or negative. Down here is your overall trust. We are now accepted within the city, so that's good. And it's marginally increased by the foragers and by the machinists. So both of them are kind of happy. That's pretty good. Alright, stockpiles depleted. Steward, our initial stockpiles of materials have run out. Our current output will satisfy some of the demand, but problems will mount over time. Yeah, so this is our first real problem. Our stockpile's gone. We're now in a deficit of materials. We need a second materials district, or we need to build that building that gives us more stuff out of that district. So extraction. The grinding coal mine's obviously not going to do anything for us. We need something specific to, like, wood extraction or something. There's 2 building slots in here. But we'd have to get that in the idea tree, which we're about to get hothouses next. So really, it might just be most relevant to build a new district for it. Sorry, wrong button. But in order to do that, we need a bit more heat stamps. Just a little bit. We'll get it next week. What's going on here? Rexdale, 45 years old, an entrepreneur, returning from the city approach trail. A profitable day. First couple were all rags and bones, useless. But then, there was this woman with real ruby earrings. Ought to cover the arrival free, I said. The wife will love those. Next was a bunch of strong fellas. I sent him straight to Elaine's place. She'll wring him dry before I get him home. Lately, there's been less of them, but maybe word is getting around. Gotta take advantage while it lasts. So the lack of a law regulating outsiders is decreasing population growth. Interesting. We'll have to set up immigration laws and have a look into that as well, but there's only so much we can do at a time. Have we made enough money? We have enough money now, so we're going to get a second extraction district. Although, thinking about it, maybe it'd be better to set this up on a different deposit. Like out here, or up here. We need to go up here anyway for the foods. Alright, scour the Frostland. Our logistics district is ready, and Frostland team stand by for orders. Frostland exploration is now available. Just really quickly, we're going to also expand up here now. Right, so we should be able to get these materials. Iron ore here. 3.3 million. Should last quite a while. Now, we're into the Frostland. Alright, so what we got to do in order to start going somewhere, well, we just have to choose locations and send people out. So we've got safe territory, the plains, frozen desert, mountains, the valley. What do we have here? Just around the river bend. We followed a petrified river up through the frost and spotted a sharp bend north of here. Could be an indicator of underground resource, likely oil or gas. I see. And that's sending us out towards the valley. Should we go to the valley? Let's do it. So, we basically have 10 Frostland teams that came with that district. And now we can just send them out. Possible findings here are coal. Quiet lowlands nestled between hills or mountains, offering some respite to travels amidst the rugged terrain. Present little challenge for exploration. Safe, fast, few Frostland teams required. Only 10. Okay, let's go. We'll send them out. And they'll get moving now in real time. So you can just see them there kind of making their way out. So it's going to be tracked up here. 14 weeks basically to get there. And then we'll get a little message and event when they get there. I don't know if we actually get to see them leaving. Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't think so. I think they're just kind of on their way. Alright, so we're frost breaking this little area here. And then we can set up a new district once we get 120 wealth. We're pretty close to getting that. Any moment now. There we go, we got it. Right, so extraction district. Bonk. So this one's going to be a bit weird. It has to go in a line based on the trail that we created. But that's okay. I think. And we'll continue the frost breaking up this way to get the food. I think that'll be alright as well. Alright, so that I didn't even check, but that's going to give us what? It'll give us 100 materials, because the demand for it is 50 itself, so it eats 50 of its own materials. So it gives us 100 extra. Currently, we have 170 unfulfilled, so still not going to be enough. We'll have to expand and put more buildings into it. This one, so that's good to know. We expanded over the resource, and I was saying I didn't know if it would give us more or not. But it turns out it did. It looks like it has, anyway. We're getting 190, whereas it used to say 150, so maybe going over those 2 extra deposits gave us like 20 each or something. Seems to be the case. That's good to know. So, is there a way to check for that? Yeah, so there's 2 more there. That one only had 1, and then there's a big pile of them out here as well, so we'll have to get to them. Alright, still learning, obviously, as time goes on. Right, sorry, we have another research active here. So we have our hothouses, which need to be upgraded. We have advanced hothouses, worker shifts, advanced coal mines, sawmills, logistics bays. See, sometimes people used to get really annoyed with me in my first playthrough, even though that playthrough was awesome and damn near perfection. And shout out to that playthrough, you should go watch it. It's 14 episodes, and it's really, really good. Honestly, I don't say that about any series I do. That one is really good. Highly recommend it. And we play on hard as well. But something people used to get annoyed at me was I would have research idle. Actually, not research, laws. I would have laws idle. And people are like, get another law. Get another law as soon as you can. But see, you can use these to your advantage. If you have a political group with a problem, then you can go, okay, we'll get the research you want. And that makes them happy. So it's almost like you kind of want to... Because otherwise you could have a problem and then you have to wait like 7 weeks to get something else. And there might not be anything else that you can even get based on other requirements. So I feel like it can be worth waiting. But here in the demo anyway, let's just go for it. We'll go with the mechanists. Progress and adaptation. It's one or the other. Develop the idea for 50, please. Let's get that going in the background. Right, so we have a little problem up here now. Squalor is growing. Extremely increased by materials scarcity. That's an interesting problem because it means that because we don't have enough materials, squalor is growing, but there are buildings that you can upgrade. So that advanced sawmill that we can put in here, I believe, creates squalor. So it's like an unsolvable issue in a way. You can only mitigate it and try to solve it in other ways. Food is somewhat limited now too. We're not feeding everyone anymore. We've bled through our stockpile there. So we have hothouses. We just need to put a building into that slot in the food category. But now we need more people and more heat stamps. Yikes. That's going to be a struggle as well. We're still not even meeting all the materials with our new district up and running either. So requirements 50. Demand is 360. We're unfulfilling 20. Yikes. How much are we unfulfilling for food? 80. So 80 people are... So we're going to start seeing that hunger building now. Extremely increased by the food scarcity problem. What's your problem? Feral children. Oh, God. Stewart, 5 children are dead, and dozens lay wounded after 2 large youth gangs met for what they called a rumble. Most of the children were armed with knives. The fighting escalated to a full-scale battle. As the parents of the deceased mourn, many insist these children should not have been left unattended. Indeed, many backstreet alleys seem to be overtaken by uncared-for youth. Some areas are beginning to be dangerous, even for adults. I know that's like, you walk by a gang of teenagers and get... Well, anyway. The persistent lack of law regulating childhood is causing crime and tension to rise even further. Crime is slightly increased. Commit to solving the issue. You'll have 30 weeks to pass a law. Yep, okay. We'll do it. Laws. Let's get in there. Society. Childhood. No current common rules. So nothing, there's no rules about it. So we can have family apprenticeship. A percentage of active workers is slightly increased. Or mandatory schooling. Research speed is slightly increased. We get more workers. We're lacking workers. Heat stamps per capita is decreased. I prefer this, I think, then. A small step towards tradition. Family apprenticeship. All children must work alongside one of their relatives. Yeah, sure. Go for it. This would have been to guarantee that all children have the skills and knowledge needed in a city. We'll establish a mandatory school program. We'll go with tradition. Just because it's kind of what I need right now. Alright, so 420 against 10, hesitant 70. We could just let the gods decide this one. What do you think? Rather than making promises we can't fulfill. We did have 30 weeks to pass this law, so we can always try again. After 10 weeks, so I'm just going to roll it. See what the people say. Family apprenticeship. 51 required. Yes. Got it. Got him. Alright, nice. Got lucky on that. Trust has risen yet again. We're accepted. How's our expedition? It's out there at the moment, but it's searching and exploring. 7 weeks left to go. Alright, so we've actually got enough workforce now. Because of that law we passed, it seems to have freed up more workers, right? And that's what it said it would do. So now we can build a bio-waste drum hothouse. So that's going to give us an additional 80 food. We're currently lacking 80 food. That's exactly what we need. It's going to put a strain on our coal, though. Another 20 heat is required. We have the heat stamp. So that was in favor of the foragers when we passed that tech. When we passed that idea, I guess. Or rather, developed the idea from their side of things. So let's get it done. Heat demand has been increased because it's after getting colder, so that's really going to strain our coal again, but we do have a decent stockpile at least to draw from for a while. Things are going to get colder again in a few weeks, but then at least get a little better for a while. Alright, cool. So yeah, we're kind of pushing a little bit more towards tradition. That's something I wouldn't normally do, personally. I'm much more heavily inclined towards reason and automation and machines than I am towards a traditional society, but hey, if we can balance both, that's all good by me. In fact, these guys are now quite happy with us. Relations favorable, because we've done so many things that they like, and we could talk to them, and we could actually request that they give us money if we're desperate. So they could give us some money, and then we'll worsen relations pretty much immediately. But that's kind of why you build these people up. It's to cash in the favors. Or so that you can maybe, you know, pass laws that are against them and still keep them relatively happy once you've built them up enough. We still only have 2 groups. I dare say when I first played this, I only did about 100 weeks. I had 4 groups by this point, so I've done totally different choices though, so that's kind of interesting. These other communities have not appeared yet for me, based on what we've done. Not to be, you know, spoiling things, but I'm surprised that just other groups haven't appeared yet. I wonder, does that mean I'm playing better or worse? I don't know. Alright, we're still waiting on the expedition. It's almost done though, 5 days left to go. And we're building up money nicely just to do more ice breaking again so we can push further out. It's tempted to go again, get more fertile ground, but we're really out of workforce now. We just need more population. Sorry, I was just reading that tooltip. So population is actually flat right now. We're 84% of the way to getting a new group moving in, or another bump of population, I think. And it says that's stagnant because of the laws that have slightly decreased it. There's no common rules for outsiders. So we need to set up a law for immigration if you want to let people arrive to our city and boost population. Right, so this is done now. So we have the Sunken Dale Valley. Oil-treated sledges. We stumbled across an abandoned caravan of sledges, long since picked clean. Closer inspection revealed wood that had been treated with oil, a crude but effective method of waterproofing. Frozen tracks indicate the sledges came from the northwest. So I'm guessing, based on how the text is written, that northwest would be out that way. And that does have a little icon above it. So that requires 20 Frostland teams. We only have 10 available, so we can't go there right now, to the glacier. We've also got a little question mark here, now that we've uncovered this valley. Meager coal mine. Cresting a snowdrift, we found a long-abandoned coal mine. Nearly depleted. More than enough coal remains to send back to the city. 10 required. Let's have a look. So basically what's happened here is this area was unlocked when we did the exploration here. So you get a big area unlocked. Tells you on the nearby, it tells you about things nearby, but it also unlocks then question marks within that for you to then go explore separately. Right, so we can set up an outpost here. Let's have a look. So build a trail. Build a trail or railway. Right, so connect a trail back to the city. Alright, I was just looking at this for a minute. So basically our options are this. Our trail can connect all the way back to here. And we could hit enter and that could be that. But if we want to bring that to the city, then we'd have to go here and then in. So it's 3 connection points, so it's 75 heat stamps. But that would be the same even if we just went direct from here in. Like, that's as good as we can get it. It's still going to be 3 connections either way. So we may as well connect up this. Seems to make more sense to me. So we'll connect like that. I think it adds to the time of the journey, though, maybe a bit. But
That's why we could have connected here. That might have been a more sensible connection right out that way. But oh well. It's built now. We've paid for it, so it is what it is. Alright, the outsiders. No common rules currently for this law for how we deal with people. Stewart, it seems some of our citizens are profiteering from outsiders trying to get into the city. We caught smugglers with a freezing and disorientated group of people. When warned, fed, and questioned, they spoke of the grim reputation our city has among the survivors in the area. It's the only generator there is, but we've heard stories of what some of the guides do to people trying to get in. After what happened to us, the rumors seem true. Should we do something about it? We'll set rules for entry, yeah. Yep. That'll be our next thing that we work on. Alright guys, I think we're going to have to leave it there. I actually just watched that dip from positive relations back down to neutral, so something must have affected them. But anyways, we're going to have to leave it there. We'll be back in the next episode continuing this on. Things are pretty stable right now. Quite happy with that. But it's, I promise, for funsies, it's all going to go to shit. It's very difficult what's going to happen later, especially when the weather really starts to turn, because we're starting to see a little bit of problems creeping in, but we're just about keeping ahead of them as they happen. But I hope this wasn't too slow for people, because there was a lot to kind of get through and explain. Hopefully I did a decent enough job of it, and the next one is just going to be much more gameplay focused now that we kind of understand how everything's going to be working. But I am absolutely enamored with this game. I'm really loving it. I was pretty positive on Manor Lords. I thought that looks great. I'm really enjoying it, but this, it's the first time I've really been excited for a game in a long time. It's probably just my bias towards like immersive storytelling and like kind of city building and stuff, but I just think it's so cool, the political choices and stuff you have to make, the voting system, the council, appeasing both sides, the little events you get. Some of the events I got in my own run, which I haven't seen any even just in this demo, were vicious. I'll just leave it at that, so we'll see if we ever get them later on. Alright, that's going to have to be it for me. Thank you very much for watching. Make sure you hit subscribe if you want to see more from this series, and become a channel member if you want to get extra videos early before anyone else. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.